Pantheon AI presents PAI Morning Briefing. Hey everyone, welcome to the PAI Morning Briefing. It's your host from Pantheon AI here. And guess what? It's April 16th, 2025. Good morning.
Morning. Let's jump right in, shall we? Markets and news, here we come.
All right, first up, a quick market overview. The S&P 500. It's sitting at around 5,330.47.
And it's seen a tiny dip, right? Like negative 0.09%? Barely anything.
Exactly. Holding steady despite some early jitters, it seems. Now the Dow Jones, our good old blue chip barometer,
is at roughly 40,126.92, right? Down about negative 0.13%. So pretty much the same story.
Yep. And the Nasdaq's not far behind, trading near 16,487.43, a gentle decline of almost negative 0.07%.
Okay, what about the smaller guys, the Russell 2000?
It's at roughly 1,870.35, shutting around negative 0.13%. So a little bit of red across the board, but nothing major.
Gotcha. Okay, let's switch gears. Crypto time.
Bitcoin's trading at about 84,111.74, and it's actually managing a modest gain, up roughly positive 0.56%.
Nice. But what about Ethereum? I heard it took a hit.
It did, yeah. Trading at roughly 1,574.941, down nearly negative 0.87%.
So bulls are working on Bitcoin while Ethereum's feeling some selling pressure. Interesting.
Definitely. Now, let's dive a bit deeper into the market trends. Overall, there's a cautious sentiment, right?
Yeah, even with those tiny declines, it feels like investors are balancing geopolitical stuff with hoping for growth.
Exactly, and one big thing is Nvidia. They're in a bit of hot water after some unexpected news from their China operations.
Oh, right. Restrictions on their made-for-China chips, wasn't it? That rattled investors, I bet.
Big time. I saw one headline saying, "It's a different world for Nvidia stock under Trump." Pretty much sums it up.
Wow. Politics really hitting tech hard. Analysts are probably scrambling, wondering if Nvidia can still grow with all these constraints.
Totally. It's a question of whether it's a short-term blip or a bigger problem. But politics and tech are definitely a volatile mix.
For sure. It shows even giants like Nvidia are at the mercy of regulations. So what else is making waves?
Well, speaking of bold moves, Infinite Reality's buying Agentic AI company Touchcast for around $500 million.
$500 million? That values Infinite Reality at like $15.5 billion? That's huge!
It is. Signals a big shakeup in the AR/VR space. It'll be interesting to see how it affects platforms like Napster, IR Studio, and IR Enterprise.
Definitely. What other headlines are catching your eye?
OKX, a global crypto exchange, is pushing into the US with a new trading and wallet. More crypto going mainstream, it seems.
Yeah, even with regulators being cautious, competition's heating up. It's a play for market share and to add legitimacy to the industry.
Exactly. And in retail, US sales are surging. Apparently, buyers are rushing to avoid tariff-related price hikes.
Wow, a 26-month high. So consumers are resilient, but also worried about trade wars, huh?
That's the takeaway. Proactive buying to dodge tariff pitfalls shows confidence, but also concerns about long-term trade.
Okay, what's happening with central banks? Anything interesting there?
Bank of Canada left rates unchanged as expected, still at 2.75%. Uncertainty still in the air, especially with tariffs.
So even a no-change decision stirs up debate about the economy. Classic.
Yep. Now Cadence is buying ARM's Artisan Foundation IP business. More consolidation in tech innovation, right?
Definitely. Streamlining intellectual property to stay competitive. And Lyft bought FreeNow for almost $200 million.
Another milestone in the ride-sharing world. But not all news is good. Harley-Davidson's facing an activist shareholder wanting a board shakeup.
Ouch. Leadership change could be coming. Investors must be nervous about their strategy.
You bet. Even legacy brands aren't safe from shareholder activism. And finally, Travelers, the insurance company, surprised everyone with a profit upside despite California wildfires.
Wow, how'd they pull that off?
Diversified income streams helped balance out the catastrophe losses. Always good to have a backup plan, right?
Definitely. Okay, let's get into the sector analysis. Tech, energy, and finance. What's the pulse?
Tech's all about Nvidia. Their China situation shows how geopolitics can mess with tech companies' markets.
It's a microcosm of the challenges they face. Innovation's not enough. They have to navigate international regulations, too.
Exactly. Mergers and acquisitions might even be a defensive strategy now, like Infinite Reality buying Touchcast, mitigating risk by expanding portfolios.
Could strategic acquisitions become the norm even for tech giants facing regulatory shifts? Something to watch.
For sure. Now, energy, not as flashy as tech today, but still significant.
Energy's always sensitive to geopolitical events and regulations. Tariff tensions are probably making them rethink things.
Yeah, a lot are investing in renewables to hedge against fossil fuel volatility. Traditional companies are reassessing their risk profiles.
So the slow shift to renewables might be key to mitigating future risks from all these global tensions.
Makes sense. What about finance?
Finance is all about policy uncertainty and currency volatility. Bank of Canada's decision reflects that caution. They're watching for shifts in the macro landscape.
Investors are wondering how central banks will handle inflation and trade disputes. U.S. retail sales are a good sign, but tariffs are still a risk.
Analysts are glued to consumer sentiment and bond yields, trying to predict the next move. That's where it gets interesting, right?
Totally. Predicting the domino effect of central bank decisions is the name of the game. But let's zoom out. Global implications?
Everything from chipmaker struggles to crypto expansion isn't just local. Nvidia's China issues show how interconnected markets are. Regulations in one place ripple out.
Exactly. And OKX expanding into the U.S. shows how digital assets are blurring borders. Companies are capitalizing on opportunities abroad to diversify risk.
And those acquisitions by Infinite Reality, Cadence, and Lyft? They're all looking beyond their home markets for growth.
Are these consolidations a sign of stress or a proactive strategy to stay ahead? Big risks, big potential rewards.
Good question. Okay, expert insights and predictions. What are we looking at?
The political and regulatory headwinds facing companies like Nvidia could force a more conservative approach in tech.
But new partnerships and acquisitions could open up new opportunities. Short-term volatility, but long-term rewards for those who are prepared and diversified?
That's the speculation. And in crypto, Bitcoin's gains versus Ethereum's decline. What's that about?
Is it a temporary blip? Or is Bitcoin reasserting its dominance in uncertain times, leaving altcoins like Ethereum to struggle?
Good question for our curious investors to ponder. And central banks?
Expected to stay cautious. Bank of Canada's decision reflects the global sentiment. If tariffs or tensions escalate, they might react more strongly.
So investors should be prepared with diversified portfolios. And what about Harley-Davidson?
That's a reminder of how legacy companies need to reinvent themselves. Will they embrace digital transformation and new leadership?
Time will tell. Okay, let's dive deeper into each sector. Tech. Nvidia's challenges remind us it's a roller coaster.
Yeah. And Cadence buying ARM's IP business is part of a consolidation trend that could boost innovation. But is it smarter to invest in diversified companies versus those vulnerable to single market dynamics?
Definitely a question to ask. Energy. Quieter news today, but tariff discussions are making companies rethink their strategies.
Renewables are gaining momentum. Traditional companies have to decide, stick with the old or go cleaner.
Financial institutions and governments are incentivizing the switch, so the future energy mix will likely be more sustainable.
And finance? Consumer confidence is up, but how do policymakers balance growth with preventing inflation?
Flexibility in monetary policy will be crucial. Are we seeing the quiet before the storm, or will central banks continue to tread lightly?
It's a fascinating interplay of risk and opportunity. Globally, the implications are huge.
Market uncertainty spreads fast. The contrast between crypto optimism and traditional market struggles shows that perfectly.
Investors need to think about how balanced their portfolios are, considering geopolitical tensions, tech shifts, and everything in between.
Absolutely. If the market were a roller coaster, we'd be on the mid-course dip today.
Not too extreme, but enough to keep us on our toes. Or maybe it's like being in a doctor's waiting room. Something's coming, but we don't know what.
Haha, exactly. But it's the strategic moves that make it interesting. Just hold on tight and enjoy the ride.
So, predictions for the rest of the day and the near future?
Geopolitical factors are still a wild card, especially where tech and regulations meet. Nvidia's struggles might make companies rethink their global strategies.
And tech and finance are on a collision course with innovation and policy changes. Acquisitions could reshape the landscape.
So investors should diversify and pay attention to central banks, regulators, and corporate leadership. Volatility might persist, but shifts could pave the way for new growth.
Keep a measured perspective and sift through the noise. Key takeaways then?
Major indexes showed slight declines, but the underlying uncertainty shouldn't be ignored. Bitcoin and Ethereum are doing their own thing, so stay agile in crypto.
Nvidia's saga highlights vulnerabilities in tech, while acquisitions signal consolidation and diversification. Retail's strong, but Harley-Davidson's facing challenges, showing no sector is immune to change.
And Bank of Canada's decision reminds us of the delicate balancing act central banks must perform. Energy is leaning towards renewables, and finance is bracing for policy actions.
Diversification and risk management are key. So, what questions should our audience be pondering?
How will companies like Nvidia adjust to international pressures? Will consolidation in tech lead to more resilient business models? And is Bitcoin's momentum a shift away from altcoins like Ethereum?
Thought-provoking stuff. Okay, any final words before we wrap up?
Just a big thank you to our listeners. Pantheon AI is here as your information co-pilot. Ask our AI if you have questions. We're here to help you navigate these times.
Exactly. Keep your curiosity alive, your strategies nimble, and join us tomorrow for another deep dive. Stay informed, stay engaged, and keep riding the waves.
Thanks for tuning in to the PAI Morning Briefing on this April 16th, 2025. Have a great day and see you tomorrow.
Pantheon AI, your information co-pilot.
Because learning shouldn't feel like a full-time job. Take care and see you next time.